Hi. I am Eugene and I'm planning to apply for a job. I want to apply as a cost accountant in a manufacturing factory. Will you help me learn about accounting for labor?
Good day! Here are the discussions about the accounting for labor that a cost accountant should know. In a job costing system, there are different jobs that a company is working on, so Eugene needs to identify the type of jobs that can be categorized under direct and indirect labor, and how the budgeted cost for salary is being allocated into these two. First, she needs to know what is labor. Labor is defined as the physical or mental effort expended in manufacturing a product. Meaning, kinakailangan ng human effort o lakas paggawa para makapag-produce ng isang produkto. Since laborers are offering their services, they are paid based on their effort. Maaaring base sa dami ng kanilang na-produce, sa oras na kanilang dinrabaho, o di kaya naman sa dami ng araw na pinasok ng isang worker. And the amount of money that is being paid for the labor is what you call factory labor. Ang factory labor ay nahati sa dalawang kategorya. Ito ay direct labor at indirect labor. When we say direct labor, it is the costs that are economically significant na ina-allocate directly sa manufacturing process. Nakapaloob dito ang mga workers na engage sa paggawa ng mismong product katulad ng mga factory workers. While indirect labor ay yung mga costs incurred na kinoconsidered as insignificant at hindi directly charged sa production. Halimbawa nito ay ang supervisor's fee, wages paid to the other workers that are not connected directly to the production, employee benefits, vacation holiday pay, health insurance, and benefit workers.
Good day. We would like to inform you that you're hired.
Eugene applied to SKZ Company as a cost accountant and she got hired. Now, she needs to distinguish the difference between the wages and salaries since they are often reversed. When we say wages, it is the amount of money being earned based on hours, days, or months you work for, or how many products you finish depending on the rate given, meaning it varies depending on the worker's capacity or performance. Meanwhile, salaries are fixed payments and determined before you work. It is made regularly for managerial or clerical services. Sa madaling salita, ang wage ay para sa mga blue-collar jobs at ang salary naman ay para sa mga white-collar jobs. Isa sa halimbawa ng blue-collar jobs ay yung mga nagtatrabaho sa fast food chain. At ang white-collar jobs naman ay kadalasang mga nagtatrabaho sa service industry at hindi masyadong nag-e-engage sa mga mabibigat na physical labor. Also, Eugene needs to be knowledgeable about the laws in the industry she's working at, particularly the Labor Code of the Philippines, provisions of Presidential Decree No. 442, especially that she is now going to apply this law to her job. In the Labor Code, it says that the normal hours of work of any employee shall not exceed 8 hours a day. It includes all time during which an employee is required to be on duty or to be in a prescribed workplace, and all time during which an employee is suffered or permitted to work.
Hi.
Hello.
Let me introduce you in this field.
I would love to.
Follow me.
Her employer wants Eugene to get familiarized about the field she will be working for. So, as a cost accountant, she learns what wage plan the company is using since she will use it to accumulate and distribute factory payroll. There are various wage plans that the company uses. First, the hourly rate plan. Hourly rate plans are usually applied to those who work as a part-timer wherein their payment is based on the hour they spent on working. Here, they are paid based on their definite rate per hour and number of hours they work on their jobs. It is computed by multiplying the rate per hour by the number of hours the employee works on the job. Second, the piece rate plan. In a piece rate plan, the worker is paid based on the rate and number of output produced. Kung ang hourly rate ay nakabase solely sa oras na nai-spend ng isang worker sa paggawa ng product, Dito naman sa piece rate plan, ang kita ng isang worker ay nakabase sa dami ng kanyang magagawang produkto na may katumbas na halaga. Third, the modified wage plan. Modified wage plan is the combination of hourly rate plan and piece rate plan, wherein the employer sets a quota for production that needs to be reached, and the basis of the wage is the hours worked. When the employee exceeds the quota, then that's when additional payment is being added. In the daily rate plan, the employee has a definite rate per day. It is computed by multiplying the rate per day by the number of days the employee works. Lastly, the monthly rate plan is the fixed rate an employee earned for a month. Usually, professionals like accountants are under this kind of wage plan. Eugene met John and Stacy. John is the head of the timekeeping department, while Stacy is in the payroll department. They explained that the responsibility of the timekeeping and payroll departments is maintaining the labor records. Timekeeping departments accounts for the time spent by the employees in the factory. The departmental responsibilities of timekeeping is to maintain the employee time tickets, clock cards, and production reports. For familiarity, the head of both departments show Eugene what an employee's time ticket and payroll looks like. The time ticket shows the starting and stopping time, hourly completed and hourly rate on each job. The image shown is an example of an employee's time ticket. The payroll departments are the one who computes employees' gross and net earnings. Sa image na makikita sa video, dito makikita natin yung different daily minimum wage rates ng iba't ibang region. Sa NCR, mayroong minimum wage rate na 500 to 537 pesos. Ito ay mas mataas kaysa sa ibang mga region na nagre-range lamang sa 282 to 420 pesos. Eugene also needs to be familiar about the deductions in the payroll.
Are there any deduction from gross pay?
Yes. You said it yourself, it's only a gross pay, not yet a net pay.
What are those deductions?
Payroll deductions are those that are mandatory and voluntarily deducted to the employee's gross pay for the purpose of paying taxes and benefits like health insurance. In the Philippine setting, this include SSS, PhilHealth, HDMF or Pag-ibig, Withholding Tax, and other loans if applicable. Social Security System or SSS contribution is the government-mandated program for employees. In the division of SSS contribution, 2/3 will be shouldered by the employer and the member employee will shoulder the remaining 1/3. This contribution is levied against both employer and employee based on the table provided in the SSS website. Ibig sabihin, ang SSS ay paghahatian ng employee at employer base sa SSS contribution na nararapat sa kanila. To illustrate, if ADI monthly salary credit is 10,000 pesos, ADI total contribution is 1,270 pesos. 420 pesos will be deducted to ADI pay and the rest will be shouldered by her employer. In order to ensure affordable health insurance, the government requires that all employees be insured through the Philippine Health Insurance System or what we know as PhilHealth. This is also levied against both employer and employee in equal amounts based on the table provided. To illustrate, if ADI monthly salary credit is 10,000 pesos, ADI total contribution is 350 pesos. 175 pesos will be deducted to ADI pay and the rest will be shouldered by her employer. HDMF, or most commonly known as Pag-ibig, is also levied against the employee and employer but in equal amounts. The contribution in Pag-ibig is computed based on the employee's monthly compensation. Kung ang isang employee ay kumikita ng mas mataas sa 1,500 kada buwan, ang share ng employee at employer ay parehong 2% ng basic pay ng empleyado. Pero kung ang kinikita ng isang empleyado ay 1,500 o mas mababa pa dito, ang share ng worker ay 1% ng kanyang basic pay at 2% naman sa kanyang employer. Also, it must be noted that the maximum monthly compensation to be used in computing the employee and employer's share shall not exceed 5,000 pesos. Kung ang monthly earnings ng isang employee ay mas mataas sa 5,000, automatically no 100 ang magiging contribution nito. Withholding tax is also deducted from employees' income arising from employer-employee relationships. According to Train Law, or Tax Reform, or Acceleration and Inclusion Act, taxpayers who earn 250,000 gross and below annually are exempted from the withholding tax. Ito ay pwedeng ang isang trabahador ay mayroon lamang na 685 pesos pababa ang kita kada araw, o kaya may weekly income na 4,808 pababa, semi-monthly na 10,417 pababa, or monthly na umaabot lamang sa 20,833 pababa. Sa image na ito ay makikita ang revised withholding tax table effective on January 1, 2018 hanggang December 31, 2022. Lucky is a minimum wage earner. Ibig sabihin, siya ay exempted sa withholding tax. Ngunit, kung si Lucky ay na-promote at ang kanyang semi-monthly salary ay naging 23,550, ang withholding tax ay mababawas sa kanyang payroll ay 2,970 and 75 cents. The total taxable compensation of Lucky is 23,550, less the compensation range of 16,667. The total will be 6,833. The withholding tax shall be computed as the tax on the 16,667, which is 1,250, plus the tax in the excess, which is 6,833 times 25%, or 1,720 and 75 cents. The combination of both taxes is 2,970 and 75 cents. After knowing all the payroll deductions, it is Eugene's job as cost accountant to record and make an entry for every government contribution. So, as soon as the compensation is incurred, Eugene needs to accumulate the earnings of Addie in the factory payroll account, bayad man o hindi. The entry will be debit factory payroll, credit payroll deductions such as SSS, pag-ibig, and withholding tax, credit accrued wages payable, or cash if paid. To better illustrate, the entry that Eugene should make for Addie is debit factory payroll 10,000, credit SSS contributions 420, credit pag-ibig contributions 100, credit PhilHealth contribution 175, credit accrued wages payable 9,305. Remember that Addie is not required to pay withholding taxes since her monthly salary is below 20,833. It is also included in Eugene's job to distinguish direct labor and indirect labor costs. The salary of the direct laborers, or the workers that are directly attributable in the manufacturing process, is in the work in process account, while the salary of the indirect laborers is in the manufacturing overhead account. The entry will be debit work in process and manufacturing account, and credit factory payroll. On her first day, Eugene encounters various situations on her job. So let's accompany her as she solves these problems. In SKZ Company, Eugene encounters 5 different scenarios regarding the making of payroll. For idle time, Melchor is working at SKZ Company as a factory worker. During his shift, there is a sudden breakdown of the machine that he is using to produce a product, making him idle for 5 hours. His normal working hours are 40 hours a week, with a rate of 65 per hour. What entry should Eugene prepare for Melchor? The entry will be debit work in process 2,275, which is 35 hours times 65. Debit manufacturing overhead 325, which is 5 hours times 65. Credit salaries and wages payable 2,600, which is 40 hours times 65. Although Melchor committed an idle time because of the machine breakdown, he will still be paid at 2,600. Labor during the idle time of 5 hours should be debited to the manufacturing overhead account since it is a cost that should be charged throughout the production rather than to a particular job only to avoid overstatement of cost of that particular job. Make-up pay. Paul just got hired as a factory worker this week. Since he is a beginner, he's not yet used to the job and still in process of learning it. That's why he will be paid according to the units he can produce with a guaranteed wage. During the week, he only produced 92 pieces with a rate of 20 pesos per piece. His guaranteed weekly pay is 2,000 pesos. What entry should Eugene prepare for fall? The entry will be debit work in process 1,840, which is 92 pieces times 20. Debit manufacturing overhead 160, which is the difference between 2,000 and 1,840. Credit salaries and wages payable 2,000. Although Paul did not meet the required quota, he will still be paid at 2,000, since it is the guaranteed weekly pay set by the company to its workers. However, in making an entry for this type, the amount debited in work in process should only be the amount that he produced in the making of products, and the amount debited in manufacturing overhead is the inadequate portion of output that should be produced to meet the guaranteed pay. Same with Paul. Kashana just got hired as a factory worker this week. She is not used to the job and still in the process of learning. She is also paid according to the units she can make with a guaranteed wage. During the week, she produces 110 pieces with a rate of 20 pesos per piece. Her guaranteed weekly pay is 2,000 pesos. What entry should Eugene prepare for Kashana? The entry will be debit work in process 2,200, credit salaries and wages payable 2,200, which is 110 pieces times 20. The output that Kashana produced is multiplied by the piece rate, and since it exceeds the guaranteed wage, the full amount is charged to work in process. This amount shows the whole units that she produced, which is considered as direct labor. For overtime premium, Connie is also a factory worker. During her normal working day, she decided to work overtime to finish her work within a shorter period. Overtime means additional payment in the form of a premium. This premium serves as a compensation for the time that an employee works in excess of his normal working hours, which makes employees to be more productive. The extra time is paid at a higher rate than the normal working hours rate. The company uses time and a half for overtime. During the week, Connie worked for 50 hours. Her normal working hours is 40 hours with a rate of 65 pesos. What entry should Eugene prepare for Connie? The entry will be debit work in process 3,250, which is 50 hours times 65. Debit manufacturing overhead 325, which is 10 hours times 32.5. Credit salaries and wages payable 3,575, which is the sum of 3,250 and 325. The amount debited to work in process is the number of hours Connie worked, 50 hours, multiplied by the normal rate of 65 per hour. On the other hand, as for the amount debited to manufacturing overhead, it is the number of excess hours in Connie's normal working hours, which is 10 hours, multiplied by the premium rate set by the company, which is 1.5, meaning 65 times 1.5. The overtime premium is being debited to manufacturing overhead as it is not a direct charge against production. According to the Labor Code of the Philippines, the rate of overtime pay is additional 25% of the hourly rate for work performed in excess of 8 hours on ordinary day. On an employee's rest day, the rate is plus 30% of the daily basic rate, or a total of 130% for work performed on rest day or special day. So, Hindi laging time and a half ang gagamitin ng company. Pwedeng 30% as long as hindi bababa sa 25% na sinet ng law. So, if silent ang problem at hindi sinabi ko anong overtime premium ang gagamitin, 25% ang overtime premium na gagamitin base sa batas. However, this is not appropriate to all overtime premium scenarios. The overtime premium is not always debited to manufacturing overhead. Let's see root as an example. For overtime premium rush job, Ruth is also a factory worker. She worked overtime due to a customer's approach to the company with a specific order in a rush. The customer agreed to pay additional payment for the special service. The rush job would take an estimated 10 labor hours to complete. However, since it is a rush job, Ruth worked for 8 hours to finish it at overtime rate. The company has a basic rate of 65 pesos and an overtime premium of 30%. What entry should Eugene prepare for Ruth? The entry will be debit work in process 806, credit salaries and wages payable 806, which is the sum of the product of 10 hours times 65 and 8 hours times 65 times 0.3. Since overtime premium resulted from specific jobs, total labor cost including the overtime premium is charged directly to the job that caused the overtime. The overtime premium will be debited to work in process instead of manufacturing overhead. For shift premium, SKZ Company's regular working days are Monday to Friday with 8 working hours per day at a rate of 80 pesos per hour. 10 laborers on morning shift are paid 10% premium while another 10 laborers on night shift are paid 20% premium. SKZ Company has 30 laborers in its factory. What entry should Eugene prepare? The entry will be debit work in process 96,000, which is 40 hours times 80 times 30 laborers. Debit manufacturing overhead 9,600, which is 40 hours times 80 times 10% times 10 laborers, and which is 40 hours times 80 times 20% times 10 laborers. Credit salaries and wages payable 105,600, which is the sum of 96,000 and 9,600. The amount debited to work in process will only compose of the total normal working hours in a week, which is 40 hours, multiplied by the rate of 80 per hour, and multiplied by the number of the company's laborers. Next is the amount debited to manufacturing overhead, which will only include all the premiums that should be paid. First premium is the premium for the morning shift, which has the rate of 10%. So to compute the morning shift premium, it will be normal working hours, 40 hours, multiplied by the normal rate of 80 per hour and multiplied by the premium rate of 10%, then multiplied by the number of laborers in the morning shift, 10 laborers. Last premium is the night shift premium, which gives a rate of 20%. The computation would be normal working hours multiplied by normal rate of 80 per hour, then multiplied again to the night shift premium of 20%, and then multiplied by the number of night shift laborers, 10 laborers. Manufacturing overhead will consist of these two amounts added. It should be kept in mind that if there is a night shift premium and the problem is silent, it should be automatically 10%. Also, the labor code states that the employee shall not be paid a night shift of less than 10% of his regular wage. Now, Eugene has already adjusted and is doing pretty well on her job in SKZ Company. Thank you!
Thank you.